Bill, while someone reads and catches up, the presenter is not here yet. And I'll tell you what do. I'll go down to the last bill because Senator England's going to handle it. Senate Bill number 2423, a real estate license, revise the regulations. Senator England.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee, for allowing me to present this bill today. This is an important bill for our real estate folks. And the bill is kind of simple. It really just does three things. The first is that it requires the commission to give an update to licensees. I was like, man, that's not my voice. Requires the commission to give licensees a 5 business days before any change in their license status. So even if a license is due, they have to send an email, which isn't really an issue because they get their emails whenever you apply for the license, so they'll have it. It's something the bar does for us attorneys, so it's fairly simple, and it just gives you that notification that your license is due. The second thing that this does is if there's any complaint hearings for a licensee, the standard of proof is no longer to be the preponderance of the evidence, but it's to be clear and convincing evidence. This is obviously a penalty or a penal process where you're taking someone's license from them, or the commission is taking someone's license, or we can think of it as their livelihood from them. And most other departments and commissions are going towards a clear and convincing standard, with that being the reason in a lot of case law that has also addressed this issue. Whenever the departments have been taken to court, they say, this is a penalty. And so the standard really needs to be clear and convincing as opposed to preponderance of the evidence. I know those are legal terms for a lot of us attorneys here, but that's the reason for that. The third thing the bill does is it adds a timeline to ensure that hearings proceed in a timely manner. One, it gives you 120 days after a licensee is notified of a complaint. The commission must either dismiss the complaint or issue a formal complaint. Once the complaint is filed, it gives essentially a 1-year statute of limitations for that process to move forward and to give a final decision within 1 year. And this timeline can be extended if the licensee requests an administrative hearing with the AG's office. So those three things are really all the bill does. And I'm happy to take any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions, Senator England? Senator Super.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a statute of limitations for someone to actually file a complaint if there's an incident that happened? Or is it just the statute of limitations is just when the complaint's initiated?
When the complaint is filed, you have 1 year to issue your final decision. But it's 120 days from the day the complaint is filed to decide whether to bring it forward or not.
Okay. Do you know of any current language or anything of any kind of statute of limitations for a complaint to be filed? Like if something happened this year, I understand, but if it's something happened 5 or 6 years ago, or, can someone file a complaint?
I'm not aware of that, but I can certainly ask and take a look at that.
Okay.
And get back to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Super.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, I have one.
Yes.
I've been in here 14 years.
Right.
And I've dealt with attorneys a lot.
Right.
And y'all don't seem to have the same definitions as the other one has.
Right.
Please explain to me and give me an example of preponderance as opposed to clear and convincing language.
Okay. And look, Senator Boyd and Senator Sparks may be able to help me with this too,
Well,
because we
they'll
sat
confuse
across.
you.
Oh, I know. Right. Well, we folks who don't know, Senator Sparks and I were in law school together, so we sat in some of these same classes. My understanding of a preponderance of the evidence is that the finding was made based on, you have your evidence and their findings based on just a little bit more than the evidence that suggested otherwise. It's the preponderance of the evidence. The clear and convincing evidence means that it's almost like in a criminal case where you have, beyond all reasonable doubt. And I know it's not quite that strong. That's a little bit different, but it's clear and convincing evidence. In other words, the evidence points to this very clearly. So it's a little bit different than the preponderance. And look, it is a tougher standard, Senator Polk, to meet a clear and convincing standard. It's tougher for a licensee to lose their license.
Right.
You have to make sure that you prove it to that amount of, that level of standard to have somebody lose their license. And that's why it's important. I doubt I would have gotten an A on that answer, maybe a C, depending on who was in my class, but I hope that explains it for you.
Well, that was my concern is
Right.
now are we making it too difficult to have someone lose their license?
I would say no, because again, you've got different, beyond all reasonable doubt is, if there's any doubt at all, clear and convincing is a little less than that. And of course, we do like to play our word games as a lawyer. But when you get to those standards, where you're really looking at is whenever it's appealed as well. The appellate court will look and deference will be afforded one way or the other. So if it's clear and convincing, they're going to give a little more weight to, they're going to look at that evidence and say, okay, well, this met that standard. Where if it's just a preponderance of the evidence, it's really tough to win an appeal when the standard is a preponderance of the evidence, because it's almost like, well, they looked at all of the evidence and it could have gone either way, but they fell this way on it. Clear and convincing evidence requires there to be just that, actual clear and convincing evidence.
I'm not known for being succinct,
No, you aren't.
but
Go right
Very good.
ahead.
I would say it's the difference between a majority vote and a 3/5 vote. And we require a 3/5 vote because it affects your money. And in this case, it affects their licensure. So I think it is a good heightened standard, but not all the way up. Thank you.
Senator Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we just got a good example of the billing practices of attorneys,
Right,
because
right.
one gave an opinion, the other's got to opine. They're paying for both.
Do I have a motion? Title sufficient to pass. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll move up the agenda. This will be number 2420. This is Senator Harkin's bill that he dropped, as I believe, for the Secretary of State. And all it does is on line 60 and on line 112, it moves the time that the Secretary of State, when he refuses to file a document, he shall return it to the domestic or foreign corporation of its representation within 30 days instead of 10. And this is when someone files for an LLC or other corporation. It just gives the Secretary of State more time to get the refusal back to the corporation and gives him more time to study the parties involved to make sure there's not any fraud. Are there any questions? I'll try to answer. If not, I'll take a motion. Motion is title sufficient to pass. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you. Next, we'll go to 2071, and I'll recognize Senator Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is, for me, a rather easy bill. It's a one pager, which is unusual, but basically I'd been approached by the durable medical equipment industry with some complaints that some insurers either will not pay them for services, or through the course of providing the service, lower the service. So what this bill does is basically say they can't do that. They can't discriminate. I'll yield for questions.
Any questions? Do I have a motion?
Title sufficient, do pass.
Motion is title sufficient to pass. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you. Another Verizon report. We like that one. Thank y'all.